I bet the pilgrims who landed in America in 1620 felt alone and helpless. I mean, they weren't alone. There were a number of them, but the number of pilgrims who landed in 1620 who got off the boat, that was much less than the number of people who had gotten on the boats to begin with. Many of them had died along the way. And the ones who landed, they were very sick, and it's likely they would have died very quickly, within a few days or weeks, if somebody hadn't helped them. The story goes they were helped by a local, a native, whose name was Squanto. And Squanto connected them with local tribes that could help them learn how to find medicine and how to find shelter and how to find food in this new and unfamiliar land. And Squanto's story is kind of interesting. We don't know everything about Squanto, but it seems that over the previous 14 years, Squanto had been kidnapped and enslaved twice by Europeans who looked kind of like these pilgrims. He had been kidnapped and enslaved once and taken over to Europe, and then when he came back, he discovered that his entire tribe had been wiped out by an epidemic. Everybody got sick and no one survived. And then he was kidnapped and enslaved again, brought over to Europe again. When he came back, one of the first groups that he saw was this group of pilgrims who, again, looked kind of like the people who had just enslaved him. And he saw that they needed help. And so he did something about it. He helped them. They survived. And for years now, we've been celebrating a Thanksgiving holiday to celebrate that they did. In Psalm 35, David, I think, was feeling kind of like those pilgrims, very alone and very helpless. It wasn't just that he was in an unfamiliar place. There were a lot of people coming after him, people plotting against him, scheming against him, gloating, saying, David, you don't have enough help, you don't have enough friends, you don't have enough resources to keep going. But David knew he did. In the first verse of Psalm 35, he says, "Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me." In other words, God, be my help, be my ally, be my friend, and one who can do things for me that I could never do for myself. And David did that because he had every right to expect that God would be all those things, because God was his help, his ally, his friend, his God, his Savior, even when David didn't deserve it. After David sinned against Bathsheba, God sent him the prophet Nathan. Nathan confronted him in his sin and said, "The Lord's not pushing you away because of it. He wants to remind you that you're forgiven. He wants to remind you that God's love and his care for you, it doesn't depend on how you acted today or on how well you behaved. It just depends on God's promise to contend with you and for you every single day. Just like Jesus did on the cross, just like Jesus did in his ministry for the sick and the lonely and the beaten down and the brokenhearted and the sad. If at any time in your life you're having a hard time looking forward and feeling optimistic, remember David. Remember David's God, because he's your God too. The one who will never fail to help, never fail to contend for you, and who will not fail to bring you to the future that he already has in mind for you, which is always a very good one. Rest well tonight, my friends.